There are days that pass by like a gentle breeze, almost unnoticed. And then there are days that seem to hold a kind of electricity in the air. Days when you can almost feel the universe leaning in a little closer, whispering, "Pay attention." Most of the time, we move through life believing that time is predictable, that today simply rolls into tomorrow, like a calm river flowing steadily forward. But every now and then, there's a shift, a crack in the ordinary. It's as if a hidden doorway appears, and for just a brief moment, you're invited to step through. September 7th, 8th, and 9th are three such days. These are not just dates on a calendar. They are a convergence point, a meeting place between light and shadow, between fear and courage, between staying asleep and waking up to who you truly are. On these days, life may whisper to you, or it may shout. It may come as a subtle nudge, a chance encounter, a passing thought, a quiet inner knowing, or it might arrive like a storm, shaking the very foundation beneath you. But here's the thing, you'll only hear it if you're truly listening. Imagine standing in front of a great mirror, one so vast it reflects not just your face, but your entire being, every thought, every emotion, every hidden fear and desire. These 3 days are like that mirror. They don't just show you what's happening outside. They reveal who you are on the inside. Many people will miss this. They'll rush through these days like any other, eyes glued to their phones, minds cluttered with worries about yesterday and tomorrow. They won't notice the subtle signs, the divine winks, the doors quietly swinging open right in front of them. But for those who pause, who breathe, who truly see, something extraordinary can happen. This isn't about forcing yourself to be hyper-aware or overanalyzing every detail. It's about softening your focus, like adjusting your vision so you can see the patterns hidden in plain sight. It's about feeling into the quiet spaces, the spaces between thoughts, between breaths, between heartbeats. That's where the guidance comes from. That's where the voice of life speaks. Think of it this way. Most of us live like rivers, straining against their own current, pushing and fighting to go where we think we should go. But in these sacred days, life invites you to stop resisting, to allow yourself to flow with the current, to trust that the river already knows the way. Sometimes that guidance will come as a whisper, so soft you almost miss it, a friend calling at just the right moment, a song that stirs something deep inside you, a strange but persistent feeling, urging you to take a different path home. Other times, it arrives as a challenge, a closed door, a sudden ending, a situation that forces you to make a choice you've been avoiding. The question isn't, what will happen during these days? The real question is, who will you be when it happens? Because these 3 days aren't here to test the outer world, they're here to awaken your inner world. You don't need to predict every outcome or control every detail. In fact, the more you try to control, the more tangled you'll feel. Instead, think of yourself as a tuning fork. Your thoughts, your emotions, your energy. They all send out a frequency, and the universe simply responds to that frequency, amplifying it. So ask yourself, what am I vibrating with right now? Fear or faith? Doubt or trust? These days are like a magnifying glass. Whatever you hold inside, whether love or resentment, clarity or confusion, will be magnified. It's not a punishment. It's an invitation to release what no longer serves you, and to step fully into the vibration of what you truly desire. As you move through September 7th, 8th, and 9th, slow down. Notice the conversations you have, the thoughts that come and go, the way your body feels when you wake up. These aren't just random moments. They are messages. They are opportunities to choose differently. And above all, remember this: you don't have to chase the miracle. You are the gateway for the miracle to appear. When you stop forcing and start allowing, when you stop trying to bend the river and simply let it flow. Life has a way of revealing its beauty in the most unexpected ways. These 3 days are a gift, a sacred window, whether they pass like any other or become the turning point of your life, depends entirely on the level of presence you bring to them. Be still, be aware, be ready, not just to witness the changes around you, but to become the change itself. 1. Awareness, the gateway to depth. Most people believe they are awake. They go through their days with open eyes. They talk, they work, they plan, and yet, inside, they are asleep. It's a strange kind of sleep, one where the body moves, but the heart and mind are caught in a fog. Life becomes a series of routines. Wake up, check the phone, rush to work, deal with problems, go to bed, and repeat. It feels like living, but in truth, it's only existing. This is the sleep of habit, the sleep of unconscious repetition. And the saddest part is, most people don't even realize they are asleep. I know this because I've been there. There was a time in my life when every day felt like the one before. I thought I was making choices, but really, I was just reacting. I wasn't living my life. I was letting life push me around like a leaf drifting on a river, going wherever the current decided. And then one day, something shifted. It wasn't a dramatic event. It was a quiet moment, almost invisible from the outside. I remember sitting alone, feeling exhausted and frustrated, and suddenly a thought arose. Why am I doing this? Why am I here, living like this? It was such a simple question, but it cracked something open inside me. You see, awareness doesn't come like a lightning bolt. It comes softly, like the first light of dawn. At first, you barely notice it, but slowly, the darkness begins to fade, and you start to see. Awareness is the moment you stop moving on autopilot and start observing. Observing not only the world around you, but also your inner world, your thoughts, your feelings, your patterns. When you begin to truly see, life changes. You start noticing things you've overlooked for years. The way your chest tightens whenever you talk to a certain person, the way you reach for your phone every time you feel lonely, the way you smile and say "I'm fine" even when you're falling apart inside. These small observations are not small at all. They are the first steps back to yourself. Most of us think we're free, but we're really just running programs we didn't even choose. We repeat beliefs we inherited from our families, our cultures, our past experiences, like actors reading from a script we didn't write. Awareness is when you finally pause and realize, wait, this isn't me. This is just a pattern. It's like waking up in a dark room and suddenly seeing that all the shadows you feared were just coats hanging on a chair. Nothing changed in the room, but you changed because you saw clearly. This is why awareness is so powerful. It doesn't require you to fight or struggle or force anything. It simply asks you to see what is really there. And when you see, you naturally begin to make different choices. When you see how a certain habit drains your energy, you begin to let it go. When you notice how certain thoughts make you small, you stop feeding them. When you witness the truth of your life without judgment, healing begins on its own. The world outside may remain chaotic, but inside, a space opens up, a quiet space where clarity lives. From this space, you start to hear the subtle signals life has been sending you all along. The gentle nudge to call someone, the inner whisper telling you to rest, the strange coincidence that shows up just when you needed it. These things were always there. The only difference now is that you are finally listening. Think of awareness as a doorway. On one side is the life you've been living, reactive, repetitive, half asleep. On the other side is a life of present, choice, and meaning. The doorway has always been there, but only you can walk through it. No one can do it for you. And the first step through that doorway is simply to pause, to breathe. And to notice the sunlight on your skin. Notice the way your heart beats when you speak your truth. Notice the stories your mind tells and how they shift when you stop believing them. In the beginning, it may feel awkward or even uncomfortable. That's normal. You're learning to see with fresh eyes. And fresh eyes reveal things you've long ignored. But keep going, because the more you practice awareness, the more alive you become. Life stops being a blur. It becomes vivid, textured, rich. Even the simplest moment, washing your hands, listening to a bird sing, sharing a quiet glance with someone you love, becomes a kind of miracle. Awareness doesn't just change how you experience life. It changes who you are. You stop being a character lost in the story and become the conscious author of your story. And in that shift, you discover something profound. You were never really asleep. You were always the one who had the power to wake up. 2. Creating space between emotion and reaction. Emotions are like waves. They rise. They crash. They pull you under if you aren't ready. Some come softly, like the gentle lapping of water on a quiet shore. Others arrive like a storm, fierce and wild, sweeping everything in their path. Most people don't realize how easily they are carried away by these waves. A single harsh word, a sudden disappointment, a flash of anger, and before they even know what's happening, they've reacted. Words are spoken. They can't take back. Decisions are made in haste. Bridges are burned in moments of heat. I've been there more times than I can count. I know the feeling of being swept away by my own anger, or drowned by sorrow so heavy I couldn't see clearly. In those moments, it's as if you are no longer steering your own life. The emotion takes the wheel, and you're just a passenger, watching yourself crash into places you never wanted to go. But there's another way. The awakened person, the one who is beginning to see lives differently, they don't try to stop the waves from coming. They don't deny or suppress their emotions, pretending they're not there. Instead, they create a space between the wave and their response. That space may only last a heartbeat, a single breath, but it makes all the difference in the world. In that small pause, freedom lives. Freedom to choose rather than to react. Freedom to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. It might sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful skills you can ever develop. Imagine a match about to be struck. If you move quickly, without thinking, the flame catches, and before long, the whole room is on fire. But if you pause even for just a moment, you can decide whether to strike that match or to set it down. That pause is everything. I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago, someone I cared about said something that cut me deeply. My instinct was to fight back, to hurt them as much as they had hurt me. The words rose up inside me like fire. But in that moment, something within whispered, "Breathe." So I did. One slow, deep breath. In that breath, it didn't denude me anger. I didn't push it away. I simply watched it, like watching a storm pass across the horizon. And in that watching, I realized something. My anger was real, but it didn't have to control me. I didn't have to act on it. That single breath changed everything. I spoke, but my voice was calm. I explained my pain instead of throwing more pain into the world. And because of that, the conversation turned toward healing rather than destruction. This is what it means to create space. The emotion will still come. It always does. Anger, fear, grief, excitement, love. They are all part of being human. But when you realize you are not your emotions, when you understand that they are passing visitors rather than your identity, you gain incredible strength. Think of a sky filled with clouds. Some days the clouds are light and beautiful, drifting by without a care. Other days, they are dark and heavy, bringing thunder and rain. But no matter what the sky looks like, you are the sky, not the clouds. The clouds come and go. The sky remains. Your emotions are like those clouds. They move through you, sometimes gently, sometimes violently. But if you can step back and simply observe them instead of reacting immediately, you discover that quiet, unchanging sky within yourself. And from that place, you can act with clarity. Creating this space is a practice. At first, it will feel difficult, maybe even impossible. Your mind is used to rushing in, to defending itself, to striking back. But every time you pause, even for a single breath, you grow stronger. The next time someone says something that stirs anger in you, try this. Feel the heat rise in your chest. Notice the rush of thoughts demanding you fight or flee. And then, pause it. Breathe. Imagine yourself stepping back, watching the scene from a distance. Ask yourself, what is really needed here? What choice will lead to peace instead of more pain? Sometimes, that choice might be to speak firmly and clearly. Other times, it might be to walk away. The action isn't what matters most. It's the consciousness behind the action. This is how we move from being victims of our emotions to masters of them. Not by denying or suppressing, but by holding them gently, like you would hold a frightened child. By saying, I see you, I feel you, but I will not let you drive my life. Over time, this space you create will grow wider. What begins as a single breath will become a deep well of stillness inside you. And from that stillness, you'll find a new kind of strength, a strength that doesn't come from force, but from presence. Life will keep sending its waves. You cannot stop the ocean, and you don't need to, but with awareness and practice, you can learn to stand at the shore, steady and calm, watching the waves rise and fall. And in that calmness, you'll discover something profound. The waves were never your enemy. They were only messengers, teaching you to return, again and again, to the unshakable center within yourself. 3. The two voices within, fear and faith. There are moments in life when everything seems to pause. The world keeps moving, yet inside, time slows down. In those moments, you stand at a crossroads, your heart pounding, your breath uneven, knowing that the choice you make could alter the path ahead. And in that stillness, you hear them two voices. The first voice is fear. It speaks urgently, sometimes even sweetly, but always with the same message. Don't go. Stay where you are. It's dangerous out there. You'll get hurt. You're not ready. Fear sounds protective, like it's trying to keep you safe. It will point to every past failure, every painful memory, every reason why it's better to stay small and hidden. Then, there's another voice, softer, quieter, so quiet you have to lean in to hear it. This is the voice of faith. It whispers words that seem almost too tender to be real. Take the step, trust. Something beautiful is waiting for you. These two voices live inside all of us. They are not enemies. They are simply parts of the same mind, pulling us in opposite directions. Fear clings to the familiar. Faith invites us into the unknown. I've stood between these voices many times. I know the trembling of wanting to leap forward while another part of me screams to run back. There was a time when fear won every battle. I let it keep me stuck in situations that drained me, because staying felt safer than risking change. But here's what I've learned. Fear is loud because it feeds on urgency. It wants you to react quickly, to obey, without question. Faith, on the other hand, speaks in whispers. It doesn't push. It doesn't demand. It waits patiently for you to choose it. The key is not to silence fear completely. That's not possible. And it's not even necessary. The key is to recognize fear for what it is: a story. A story your mind tells to keep you in the same place, even if that place is painful. When you begin to notice fear's voice, you take away its power. You realize it's just a pattern of thoughts, Echoes of old wounds. Fear says, "Remember what happened last time," faith says. "Imagine what could happen this time." It's like standing at the edge of a river. Fear will point to the swirling water and warn you of drowning. Faith will remind you that the current is there to carry you somewhere new. On September 7th, 8th, and 9th, these 3 pivotal days, life will amplify these voices. The decisions you make during this time won't just shape those days. They will ripple outward like a stone dropped into water, touching every part of your future. Fear will try to hold you in place. It will remind you of every reason to wait. It's not the right moment. You're not ready. What if you fail? What if they laugh at you? Faith will ask different questions. What if you succeed? What if this is exactly the right moment? What if taking this step changes everything I've learned? That the difference between a life of regret and a life of growth often comes down to a single decision: which voice you choose to follow. This choice doesn't always look dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it's a quiet yes to a new opportunity. Sometimes it's a gentle no to an old habit. Sometimes it's simply staying present when every part of you wants to run. But inside, it's monumental. When you choose faith, you step into a different version of yourself. The one who trusts, who moves forward even when the path isn't fully visible. It's like walking at night with only a small lantern. You can't see the whole road, but you take the next step anyway. And as you step, the path appears. Fear will always exist. It never disappears completely, but over time, its voice grows weaker. Not because it's gone, but because you no longer mistake it for truth. I remember a moment years ago when I faced a decision that terrified me. Fear was screaming, painting pictures of disaster in my mind. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. But somewhere deep inside, beneath all that noise, there was a steady, quiet whisper. Move forward. Trust. I listened to that whisper, and looking back now, that choice became a turning point in my life. You see, the real test isn't about circumstances. It's not about whether things go perfectly or fall apart. The real test is inner alignment, which voice you allow to guide your steps. As these 3 significant days approach, pause and listen. You will hear fear, and you will hear faith. Do not rush to silence either one. Simply notice them, and then, with gentleness, choose the one that expands you rather than shrinks you. Because every time you choose faith over fear, you create a new timeline for yourself, one where growth, courage, and freedom become possible. And perhaps, years from now, you'll look back at this moment and realize that the quietest whisper was, in fact, the loudest truth. 4. Understanding yourself, the foundation of all awareness. There was a time in my life when everything around me felt chaotic. The world seemed unpredictable. People's actions confused me, and I constantly felt like I was fighting battles I didn't fully understand. I thought the problem was out there in the people, in the circumstances, in the twists and turns of life itself. But slowly, through many difficult experiences, I began to see something deeper. What I was really seeing wasn't the world itself. I was seeing myself, reflected back to me in ways I didn't recognize. It's a humbling realization that the world is a mirror. What you perceive outside is colored by what you carry inside. Your fears, your unspoken desires, your hidden beliefs, they tint everything you see. Like a pair of glasses you don't even know you're wearing. When you don't understand yourself, you misread the signs around you. You take things personally that have nothing to do with you. You see threats where there are none. And you miss opportunities that are right in front of you. It's like walking through a dense fog, unsure of what's real and what's just a trick of the light. For years, I lived like this. I thought I was reacting to the world, when in truth, I was reacting to my own projections, old wounds, past disappointment, silent fears that I hadn't yet faced. If someone criticized me, I didn't just hear their words. I heard the echo of every time I had felt unworthy. If someone left, I didn't just see their departure. I saw every abandonment from my past rise up like ghosts to haunt me. And so, life felt hostile and confusing. The turning point came when I began to look inward, not to judge or to blame, but to simply observe. I started asking myself quiet, honest questions. Why does this hurt so much? What story am I telling myself right now? What part of me is being triggered in this moment? At first, it was uncomfortable. It felt easier to blame others than to face my own inner landscape. But over time, I discovered something extraordinary the more I understood myself. The clearer the world became. When you see your own fears, you recognize them when they appear. When you understand your desires, you stop chasing things blindly. When you become aware of your motivations, you begin to act with intention rather than reaction. And then, the outer world starts to shift, not because it has changed, but because you have changed. Imagine looking into a lake. When the water is turbulent, the reflection is distorted. You can't see the sky, the trees, or even your own face clearly. But when the water is still, it becomes a perfect mirror. Understanding yourself is like calming that inner water. The world doesn't become less complex, but you can finally see it with clarity. Here's the paradox when you deeply know yourself. The chaos outside begins to feel like a symphony. The things that once felt random and cruel reveal their hidden harmony. Challenges become teachers. Coincidences become guidance. Even pain begins to feel purposeful, not because suffering is good, but because you see how it shapes you, how it calls you back to what truly matters. This doesn't mean you have to figure out every part of yourself before you can live fully. It simply means making self-understanding a lifelong practice. Each moment is an opportunity to observe. Why did my heart tighten just now? Why did I want to hide instead of speak? What am I truly seeking beneath this surface desire? The more you ask these questions, the more layers you uncover. And with each layer, life feels less like chaos and more like a conversation with the universe. I used to think life was happening to me. Now I see that life is happening through me. And for me, understanding yourself isn't a selfish act. It's the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself and for everyone around you. Because when you know your own darkness, you stop projecting it onto others. When you understand your own pain, you respond to others with empathy instead of judgment. When you connect with your true self, you become a steady presence in a world that is always shifting. Begin with simple awareness. Notice your thoughts without clinging to them. Observe your feelings without labeling them as good or bad. Treat yourself like a dear friend you are just getting to know. As this relationship with yourself deepens, you'll find that the outside world begins to reflect that inner harmony. People may still come and go. Circumstances will still rise and fall. But underneath it all, you will sense a quiet order, a rhythm, like a universal song guiding you forward. And in that realization, life is no longer a battlefield. It becomes a dance, one you can finally move to with grace and understanding. 5. Decision. The moment potential becomes reality. Life does not change just because we wish for it to. It doesn't bend simply because we hope, or dream, or talk endlessly about what we want. I used to believe it did. I thought that if I visualized hard enough, or spoke passionately enough about my goals, somehow the universe would rearrange itself to meet me halfway. But over the years, through both quiet disappointments and hard-won lessons, I've learned a deeper truth. Life shifts at the exact moment we decide. Not when we think about deciding, not when we say, "I'll try," not when we write it down in a notebook and feel inspired for a few hours. No, life transforms in that singular, defining moment when you commit completely. When you say, with the weight of your whole being, "This is the way forward." There is no turning back. A real decision is a crossing point, a line drawn in the sand. On one side, there is potential, 1,000 maybes, endless possibilities. On the other side, there is movement, a step into the unknown that turns those possibilities into something real. Most people stay stuck on the side of potential because it feels safe there. It's comfortable to say, "Someday I'll do it." It's easy to dream about what could be while keeping one foot in the life you already know. I know that safety well. I lived in it for years. I told myself stories, I just need a little more time. I need to be more prepared. Maybe when the timing is right. But the truth was, I wasn't waiting for the right moment. I was waiting for certainty. And certainty never came. The thing about decision is that it always involves risk. It asks you to step out before you can see the entire path. It asks you to trust that the ground will rise to meet you, even when part of you still doubts. There was a time I faced a choice that terrified me. On one side was the familiar, a life that was safe, predictable, but deeply unfulfilling. On the other side was a dream, fragile and unproven, with no guarantees. Fear screamed at me to stay. Every logical part of my mind pointed to the risks, the potential for failure, but there was another voice too quiet, steady, like a calm breeze beneath the storm. If you don't move now, you will stay here forever. I remember the moment I decided. It wasn't dramatic. No one else even noticed. But inside, everything shifted. It felt like I had closed a door behind me and thrown away the key. That single choice didn't instantly fix everything. It didn't erase the challenges ahead, but it set a chain of events into motion. Doors opened, opportunities appeared, and most importantly, I began to show up differently. When you decide, truly decide, you send a clear signal, not only to the universe, but to yourself. You say, "This is who I am now." And when you say it with your whole being, life begins to align around that truth. This is why decision is so powerful. It's not just about external actions, it's about inner alignment. It's the moment when your thoughts, emotions, and actions all point in the same direction. Think of it like striking a match. For so long, you've been holding it, imagining the warmth it could bring, talking about how much you need the fire. But until you strike it, there is no flame. Decision is that strike. It's the spark that turns potential energy into light and heat. During these 3 sacred days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th, you may be faced with a choice. It might not seem monumental at first. It could be a simple yes or no, a single step forward or backward. But don't underestimate it. Sometimes the smallest decisions carry the greatest weight. Ask yourself, gently but honestly, what have I been postponing? What truth have I been avoiding? Where have I been standing still because fear told me it was safer that way? And then, dare to decide, even if your voice shakes, even if your knees tremble. Because once you commit, the world responds. Life begins to meet you at the level of your courage. New pathways open, not because they suddenly appeared, but because you finally had the clarity to see them. Remember, a dream without decision is only a wish, and a wish, no matter how beautiful, will never become real until you breathe life into it with action. So, as these 3 pivotal days approach, don't just think, don't just hope, choose, step forward. Let that decision be the moment your potential stops being a someday fantasy and becomes the foundation of a brand new future. 6. Mastering the inner world amid the outer storm. There are moments in life when everything around you feels like chaos. Plans fall apart. People disappoint you. Circumstances shift so suddenly, you feel like the ground has been pulled out from under your feet. It's as if the whole world has turned into a storm. Fierce winds blowing in every direction. Waves crashing higher and higher. I know that storm well. I've stood in the middle of it, terrified and overwhelmed, desperately trying to control everything around me. I thought that if I could just fix the outer world, if I could convince people to act the way I wanted, if I could plan well enough to prevent pain, if I could hold everything together, then maybe, just maybe, I would finally feel safe. But no matter how hard I tried, the storm raged on. The harder I fought, the more exhausted I became. And then, one day, through sheer fatigue, I stopped. I let go. And in that surrender, I discovered something profound. I had been trying to control the wrong thing all along. The truth is, you cannot control the weather outside. You cannot stop the wind from blowing or the rain from falling. In the same way, you cannot control the words or actions of others, the unpredictable twists of life, or the countless forces far beyond your reach. But you can control how you meet them, and that changes everything. True strength does not come from bending the world to your will. It comes from mastering yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your inner state of being. When you are ruled by fear, anger, or anxiety, every gust of wind knocks you down. Every wave feels like it will drown you. But when you learn to calm your inner world, the storm loses its power over you. The wind may still howl, the waves may still rise, but inside, there is a stillness that cannot be shaken. It's like standing in the eye of a hurricane. All around, chaos swirls, violent and loud. But in the very center, there is a pocket of calm, a quiet space untouched by the storm. That center lives inside you. The question is, how do you return to it when the world outside feels unbearable? For me, it began with noticing my reactions. I realized how often I was at the mercy of my own mind. A single comment could send me into a spiral of anger. A small setback could flood me with self-doubt. It wasn't the events themselves causing my suffering. It was my reaction to them. Slowly, I started practicing the pause. When a wave of emotion rose, I breathed. I gave myself a moment to step back and simply witness what I was feeling. Instead of being consumed by it, at first, it felt almost impossible. My old patterns screamed for me to react, to fight, to fix. But the more I practiced, the more space I created inside myself. And in that space, I found clarity. I could see that anger was often fear in disguise. I could see that worry was just my mind trying to predict a future it could never control. And I could see that beneath every turbulent feeling was a quiet, unchanging presence, a part of me that remained whole, no matter what happened outside. This is where true freedom lives. When you master your inner world, you stop being a puppet pulled by strings you cannot see. You stop being tossed around by every opinion, every disappointment, every unexpected storm. Instead, you become like a deeply rooted tree. The wind may shake your branches, but your roots remain strong. The rain may pour, but you stand tall, grounded in your own stability. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It doesn't mean you become cold or detached. It means you feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. You can face grief without being destroyed by it. You can face anger without letting it consume you. You can face fear and still take the next step forward. As these 3 important days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th approach, remember this: the storm outside may not calm down. In fact, it might grow stronger, but that does not mean you are powerless. Your greatest power has never been in controlling the outer world. It has always been in tending to your inner world. Each time you choose calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, love over fear, you reclaim your strength. And little by little, you become a safe harbor for yourself and for those around you. The storm will come and go, as it always has. But when you stand in your inner stillness, you realize something life-changing. The storm was never the enemy. It was the teacher, showing you how to return home to yourself. 7. Small decisions, the building blocks of a greater future. We often imagine that life changes through grand sweeping gestures, the big moments we tell stories about later. A bold career move, a sudden move to a new city, the day we finally walk away from something that's been breaking our spirit. These are the decisions that seem to define us. And yes, they are important, but the truth, as I've come to understand it, is much keener. Life doesn't just shift in those dramatic turning points. It is shaped moment by the small, often invisible choices we make every single day. It's the decision to get out of bed when the alarm goes off, instead of hitting snooze and losing another hour of your life to distraction. It's choosing to nourish your body with food that brings you strength, rather than numbing yourself with what leaves you feeling heavy and tired. It's deciding to spend your evening with someone who lifts your spirit, instead of someone who drains your energy and leaves you questioning your worth. These choices seem insignificant in the moment, like tiny pebbles you barely notice as you walk along a path. But over time, they build into something massive, a road leading either toward growth and freedom, or towards stagnation and regret. I've seen this play out in my own life. There was a period when I believed I was waiting for one big break, one perfect opportunity that would change everything. I kept thinking, when that day comes, then I'll finally start living differently. But while I waited for that mythical day, my smaller, daily decisions were quietly shaping my future. And because I wasn't paying attention, they were leading me somewhere I didn't want to go. Every day I told myself, just one more night of staying up too late. Just one more day of putting off that difficult conversation. Just one more time, saying yes when I meant no. And then one morning, I woke up and realized I had built a life out of those just one more's. It's humbling to face that truth, but it's also deeply empowering, because if small choices can lead you astray, they can also lead you back home. Imagine building a house. You don't lay down all the bricks at once. You place them one by one, carefully and consistently, until the structure begins to rise. Some days, it feels slow and tedious, like your effort barely matters. But months later, you look up and see walls standing tall where there was once only empty space. Your life works the same way. Each small decision is a brick. Whether you place it with intention or carelessly toss it aside, the house will still be built, and one day, you will have to live in it. During these 3 powerful days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th, the weight of each choice becomes magnified. It's as if the universe is leaning in, amplifying the energy behind even your smallest actions. When you choose kindness over resentment, that choice sends ripples far beyond what you can see. When you take a deep breath instead of reacting with anger, you set a different tone, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. When you choose to align with your deeper values rather than your passing impulses, you strengthen the foundation of the life you're building. It's tempting to overlook these moments because they don't come with fireworks or applause. No one congratulates you for getting up early to care for yourself. No one cheers when you choose to forgive instead of holding a grudge. But these quiet victories are where true transformation happens. I think of them as seeds. Plant a single seed, and you may not notice anything for days, even weeks. The ground looks unchanged, but beneath the surface, roots are forming. Life is stirring, and one day, a small green shoot emerges, proof that something powerful has been happening all along. Your daily decisions are like those seeds. You may not see the results right away, but trust that every intentional choice is taking root, shaping who you are becoming and the future you are walking toward. As these 3 sacred days unfold, pause before each decision. No matter how small, ask yourself gently, will this choice nourish me or deplete me? Will it bring me closer to the life I want or further away? Don't underestimate the power of the seemingly ordinary. A single step may not seem like much, but taken consistently, it can carry you miles. Likewise, One small decision, repeated day after day, has the power to transform your entire existence. Remember this: the future isn't built in one dramatic moment. It's built brick by brick, seed by seed, breath by breath. And the life you long for begins not with a grand gesture, but with the quiet courage to choose wisely here, now, in this very moment. 8. The present moment, a bridge to the universe. There is only one place where life truly happens, and it is right here, right now. The past, as vivid as it might feel, is nothing more than a memory, a collection of images and stories your mind replays like old film reels. The future, no matter how much you plan or imagine it, is only a dream, a landscape your thoughts have not yet walked upon. The universe does not live in yesterday or tomorrow. It breathes only in this exact moment. I learned this lesson through pain. For many years, I lived with one foot in the past and the other in the future. My days were filled with regret over things I couldn't change, and anxiety over what might come next. I thought that if I could replay the past enough times, I would somehow rewrite it. I thought that if I worried hard enough about the future, I could control it. But all that effort only left me tired and disconnected. I was never truly here. It's like trying to walk across a bridge while staring at the water far below. You don't see the wooden planks beneath your feet, the path that's supporting you in this very moment. You stumble, not because the bridge is broken, but because you're not paying attention to where you are. The present moment is that bridge. It connects you to life, to others, and to the universe itself. When your mind is trapped in the past, you are living in echoes. You might find yourself replaying conversations, clinging to old wounds, or rehearsing mistakes, as if punishing yourself will somehow undo them. But the past is like a book whose pages have already been written. You can read them for wisdom, yes, but you cannot rewrite them. And when your mind races into the future, it fills with what-ifs. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? The future is like mist on the horizon. No matter how hard you try to grab it, your hands come back empty. The only solid ground you will ever stand on is now. When you bring yourself fully into this moment, something remarkable happens. The noise quiets, the fear softens, the tension in your body begins to release. You start to notice the small miracles that have always been around you, the way sunlight filters through the leaves, the steady rhythm of your breath, the warmth in a loved one's voice. These things were never gone. You were simply too distracted to see them. Coming back to the present doesn't mean you forget the past or abandon the future. It means you stop living there. You learn to visit those places with purpose, to learn from yesterday, to plan for tomorrow. But you always return home to today. I remember a day when everything felt like it was falling apart. I sat in silence, overwhelmed by memories and fears. My mind was a whirlwind. And then, out of sheer exhaustion, I closed my eyes and took one deep breath. In that single breath, the storm didn't disappear, but I felt something shift. For the first time in days, I felt myself here sitting, breathing, alive. It was such a simple thing, yet it was profoundly healing. That is the power of the present moment. It doesn't solve all your problems at once, but it gives you the clarity to see them for what they are. It gives you the strength to take one step, then another, instead of drowning in the weight of the entire journey. When you return to the present, you also return to the universe itself. You begin to notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that feel like quiet nods from something greater than yourself. You begin to sense that you are supported, even when life feels uncertain. The doorway to this connection has always been open. It was never locked. You were simply facing the wrong direction. So pause, breathe deeply. Notice the sensations in your body, the sounds around you, the air filling your lungs. Remind yourself gently, I am here. This is my life. It is unfolding now. As you though, you'll feel a subtle shift, a quiet knowing that this moment is enough. And from this place of presence, every choice you make carries more clarity, more grace, more love. The past no longer chains you. The future no longer frightens you. And you realize, perhaps for the first time, that the universe has always been here, waiting for you to simply arrive. 9. The law of reflection, life as a mirror. There was a time when I believed that life was random, a series of unrelated events stitched together by chance. Some days were good, some were hard, and I thought it all depended on luck or the decisions of others. I felt like a leaf floating on a river, at the mercy of currents I couldn't control. But as I walked through my own darkness and began to truly observe, I discovered something that changed me forever. Life is not random. It is a mirror. Everything and everyone you encounter is a reflection of the energy you hold inside. This realization is both humbling and empowering. Humbling, because it shows us how much of our suffering comes not from out there, but from within. Empowering, because it reminds us that if we change what is inside, what is outside must eventually shift too. Think of a mirror in a quiet room. When you stand before it, the mirror doesn't create an image. It simply reflects what is already there. If you smile, it smiles back. If you frown, it frowns back. The mirror is neutral. It only shows you what you bring to it. Life works in the same way. The people you meet, the challenges you face, the opportunities that appear or disappear, they are reflections of your inner state. If you carry anger, you will see anger in the world. If you carry fear, you will notice all the reasons to be afraid. And when you carry love, compassion, and clarity, you will find them mirrored back to you in the most unexpected places. At first, this can be hard to accept. It's easier to blame others, to point at circumstances and say, "This is why I feel the way I do." I used to do this constantly. If someone criticized me, I told myself they were cruel. If life didn't go my way, I told myself the world was unfair. And in doing so, I gave all my power away. But when I began to look honestly, I saw how my own energy was shaping my experience. The relationships that felt heavy and difficult were reflecting the parts of me that were unresolved, the wounds I hadn't yet faced. The doors that stayed closed weren't proof that the world was against me. They were signs that I wasn't aligned with what I was seeking. This doesn't mean that everything is your fault. It doesn't mean you are to blame for every hardship or heartbreak. Life is complex, and there are forces far beyond our understanding. But within that complexity, there is a simple truth. The way you see the world determines the world you see. If your mind is clouded with resentment, you will interpret even kindness as suspicious. If your heart is open, even challenges can feel like invitations to grow. On September 7th, 8th, and 9th, this reflection will be magnified. It's as if life will hold up a giant mirror, showing you with startling clarity what you've been radiating into the universe. Patterns you've been ignoring may suddenly become obvious. Emotions you've been suppressing may rise to the surface. And situations that seem unrelated may reveal a hidden thread connecting them all. It can be uncomfortable to face this mirror. I remember a time when I saw my own reflection and didn't like what I found. I realized how much of my bitterness and frustration had been coloring my experiences. It hurt to admit that, but it was also the moment I began to heal. Because once you see clearly, you are free to choose differently. You might notice that a certain relationship feels unbalanced, and instead of blaming the other person, you can ask, what part of me is being reflected here? What can I shift within myself? You might realize that an opportunity keeps slipping away, and instead of forcing or pushing harder, you can pause and align your inner energy with what you truly desire. This is the gift of reflection. It gives you feedback. It shows you, moment by moment, where you are standing and what you are creating. Just as a traveler checks a map to see where they are, you can check the mirror of life to understand your current state. The outer world is your map. The inner world is your compass. During these 3 sacred days, be gentle with what you see. If the reflection is beautiful, let it inspire gratitude. If it is painful, let it inspire compassion for yourself. Remember, the mirror does not judge. It simply reveals. What you do with that revelation is up to you. When you begin to shift your inner energy, even in small ways, the reflection begins to shift too. Like a fog lifting from a window, the world around you becomes clearer, brighter, more aligned with the truth of who you are becoming. In the end, life is not here to punish or reward you. It is here to show you yourself, so that you may grow, heal, and return to wholeness. So when you look into that mirror on September 7th, 8th, and 9th, don't turn away. Stand there, breathe deeply, and meet your own gaze with courage and tenderness. Because the reflection you see is not just the story of who you have been, it is also the first glimpse of who you are ready to become. 10. Challenges, gifts in disguise. There was a time when every challenge felt like a personal attack. Whenever something didn't go my way, a door closed, a relationship ended, a dream slipped through my fingers, I would fall into despair. I saw these moments as proof that life was against me, that I was being punished or abandoned. I remember once standing alone in my kitchen late at night after receiving news that shattered a plan I had been building for years. The silence felt heavy, like a judgment. My mind raced, asking questions that had no answers. Why me? Why now? Haven't I suffered enough? All I could see was the pain, sharp and blinding. Back then, I didn't understand that opportunity doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it arrives wearing the mask of loss or disappointment. Sometimes it looks like failure, rejection, or the crumbling of something you thought you couldn't live without. It's like receiving a gift covered in rough, jagged wrapping. At first glance, you don't even realize it's a gift. You want to throw it away, not knowing that inside lies something precious, something that could change your life. The difference between seeing only the jagged wrapping and uncovering the treasure within comes down to one thing: the state of your mind. When your mind is restless and chaotic, all you can focus on is the sharpness of the pain. You fixate on what went wrong, on who to blame, on how unfair it all feels. The noise inside drowns out any possibility of understanding, but when your mind is calm, even for just a moment, you begin to see more clearly. You notice subtle signs you would have missed before. You start to sense that there might be a deeper purpose unfolding, even if you don't fully understand it yet. In that quiet space, you find the courage to lean in and ask, what is this here to teach me? What hidden gift might be waiting beneath this difficulty? I've come to realize that many of the most important turning points in my life first appeared as obstacles. The job I desperately wanted but didn't get pushed me toward a path that ultimately fulfilled me in ways I couldn't have imagined. The relationship that ended so painfully made space for a deeper, more authentic love to enter later on. Even the moments of failure taught me resilience, humility, and strength qualities I now treasure more than any external success. Looking back, I can see the pattern clearly, but in those moments, I couldn't. At the time, it felt like destruction. Only later did I understand it was actually construction life, tearing down what no longer served me to build something truer in its place. Imagine a forest fire. To the untrained eye, it looks like devastation, trees reduced to ash, smoke rising into the sky. But beneath the surface, something miraculous is happening. The fire clears away the old growth, making space for new life to take root. Without the fire, the forest would stagnate. The destruction is not the end of the story. It is part of the renewal. Challenges work the same way. When we're in the middle of them, all we see is the burning. But if we can trust that life is wiser than we are, we begin to understand that the fire is clearing space for something new to grow. This is not about pretending pain doesn't hurt. Pain is real, and it deserves to be felt. It's about holding that pain gently, without letting it close your heart. It's about staying open enough to see the gift that pain might be delivering. During the 3 significant days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th, challenges may arise more intensely. You might face situations that test your patience, your courage, or your faith. And in those moments, your mind will want to label them as bad or unfair. But take a breath, step back, remind yourself that you are seeing only the outer layer right now. There may be a hidden gem within the rubble, a lesson or opportunity that will only reveal itself with time and reflection. When you meet challenges with a quiet mind, you begin to see life differently. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "How is this happening for me?" This simple shift changes everything. Because when you see your challenges as potential gifts, you stop resisting them. You begin to move through them with grace, trusting that each experience, no matter how painful, is part of your growth. One day, you will look back at what felt unbearable and see it clearly. The rough wrapping was never meant to harm you. It was simply protecting the treasure inside, waiting for you to be ready to receive it. 11. Timely action, the key to unlocking a new timeline. There are moments in life that arrive quietly, without announcement. At first, they might not look like much: a simple conversation, a small invitation, a sudden inanudge. But deep down, something in you knows, this matters. It feels like standing before a doorway you didn't expect to find. The air is different there, almost electric, as if the universe is holding its breath, waiting to see what you will do next. And here's the truth I've learned. Often the hard way, that door will not stay open forever. The universe moves like a river, always flowing, always carrying us forward. When an opportunity comes, it appears for a reason, perfectly timed with your growth and readiness. But if you sit it too long, if you let fear or overthinking take control, the current will keep moving, and the door will drift out of reach. I've felt this in my own life. I remember a time when I sensed a strong pull to take action, to speak a truth I'd been holding back, to take a step toward a dream I'd been hiding from. Everything in me whispered, "Now is the moment," but I doubted myself. I told myself I needed more preparation, more certainty, more time. Days turned into weeks, and by the time I was ready, the opportunity had vanished. The conversation never happened. The door had closed, and the regret of that inaction stayed with me far longer than the fear ever did. This is why hesitation is such a thief. It steals not only your opportunities, but also your sense of self-trust. Each time you delay, you send yourself a silent message: "I don't believe in me." And over time, those messages pile up, making it even harder to move when the next door appears. Taking timely action doesn't mean rushing recklessly. It's not about leaping without thought or care. It's about listening deeply to that quiet inner voice and responding before the mind has a chance to smother it with doubt. Fear will always try to stall you. It will whisper, "Wait until you're sure. Wait until it feels safe. Wait until you have every detail figured out." But the universe doesn't work like that. The universe responds to motion. It doesn't need you to have the entire map, only to take the first step. When you move, doors that were invisible a moment ago begin to appear. Resources gather. Support flows in. The path begins to unfold. Not before you act, but because you act. Think of a seed lying in the soil. It holds incredible potential, an entire tree waiting to grow. But unless it breaks open and reaches toward the light, that potential will remain locked inside forever. Action is the breaking open. It's the moment potential transforms into life. During these 3 sacred days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th, the timing of your actions matters even more. These days are like crossroads in the fabric of your life. The choices you make and the steps you take will ripple outward, shaping your timeline in ways you may not fully see for months or even years. If you sense a door opening, even slightly, step through it. If you feel a surge of inspiration, follow it, even if it feels uncomfortable or uncertain, because that discomfort is often a sign that something new is trying to be born through you. And if you wait too long, if you let the moment pass, you may find yourself standing before a closed door, wondering what could have been. There's a quiet wisdom in acting when the moment is ripe. It's like picking fruit from a tree too soon, and it's bitter, too late, and it has already withered. But when you feel that perfect ripeness, that subtle readiness, trust it. Timely action is a partnership with the universe. It's a way of saying, I am ready to co-create. I am willing to move. And when you make that declaration through action, the universe responds with momentum, aligning circumstances you couldn't have orchestrated on your own. So as these days approach, ask yourself gently, where have I been hesitating? What door is standing open before me right now? And then, instead of waiting for certainty, take one small, clear step. Because every great transformation begins this way, not with a guarantee, but with a willingness to move forward into the unknown. The future is not built by those who wait endlessly for the perfect moment. It is shaped by those who act, even with trembling hands and an uncertain heart. The universe does not demand perfection. It only asks for your courage. And when you give it that courage, one timely decision at a time, you create a new timeline, one that carries you closer to the life you've been longing for. Step by step, moment by moment. 12. The power of inner space. There is a quiet space within you, a place untouched by the chaos of the outside world. I don't mean a physical location you can travel to, but a space of stillness that lives deep in your being. Most people never pause long enough to notice it. They are swept away by noise, the noise of daily obligations, of endless notifications, of other people's expectations. I know that noise well. For years, it ran my life without me even realizing it. I woke up to alarms, scrolled through my phone before my feet touched the ground, filled my days with to-do lists and conversations that never truly nourished me. Even when I was alone, my mind was loud, replaying old memories, rehearsing future worries, analyzing every word and every choice. It was exhausting, and yet, it felt normal. I thought that was just how life was supposed to be. But beneath all of that noise, something else was waiting. It was quiet, steady, patient, like a calm lake beneath a stormy surface. And it was only when I was brought to my knees by life's challenges that I finally discovered it. One night, in a moment of complete overwhelm, I sat alone in the dark. I had no words left, no solutions, nothing to fight with anymore. Out of sheer exhaustion, I closed my eyes and simply breathed. And in that breath, I felt a stillness so profound it felt like coming home after being lost for years. This inner space was not concerned with my problems or my plans. It didn't care about success or failure, about who was right or wrong. It simply was, and in its presence, all of my frantic thoughts began to soften. The fear that had gripped me for so long started to dissolve. That was the moment I realized clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from going deeper. When you connect with this inner space, decisions that once felt impossible suddenly become clear. You no longer need to control every outcome because you feel guided by something larger, something wiser than the busy chatter of your mind. It's like standing in a crowded room where everyone is talking at once, their voices overlapping, making it impossible to hear anything clearly. And then, someone opens a door to a quiet garden outside. You step through that door, and instantly, the noise fades. In that silence, You can finally hear what matters. During these 3 significant days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th, this inner space becomes more important than ever. The energy of these days will amplify whatever you carry inside. If you are consumed by chaos, the world will feel even more chaotic. If you are rooted in stillness, that stillness will expand, radiating outward into everything you touch. Life may test you in unexpected ways during this time. You might face choices that seem urgent or overwhelming. You might feel pulled in many directions by other people's opinions, fears, or expectations. This is why returning to your inner space is not just helpful, it's essential. Here's how I practice it, and perhaps it will help you too. I sit quietly, close my eyes, and breathe slowly, deeply. I don't try to silence my thoughts. I simply let them rise and fall, like clouds drifting across a vast sky. And then, I gently place my attention beneath the thoughts into that deeper place of awareness that is always steady, always whole. From that space, everything looks different. Problems that felt urgent lose their grip. Confusion begins to clear, and often, the next step I need to take reveals itself naturally, without force or strain. This space doesn't just bring clarity, it brings strength, the kind of strength that isn't loud or aggressive, but quiet and unshakable. It's the strength of a mountain standing firm while storms rage around it. The mountain doesn't fight the wind or the rain. It simply remains. When you act from this place, you move through the world differently. Your words carry more truth. Your actions flow with purpose. And even when challenges come, because they always will, you face them with grace rather than panic. The world will always have its noise, its shifting tides. But you are not the noise. You are not the storm. You are the quiet beneath it all. These 3 days are an invitation to remember that truth, to step back from the chaos, and return to the inner sanctuary that has been within you all along. If you can live from that space even for just a few breaths at a time, you will find a power that cannot be taken from you, a clarity that no confusion can cloud, and a peace that no outer storm can destroy. Because in that inner space, you are free, and from that freedom, you can create a future that reflects the deepest truth of who you really are. 13. Vibrational frequency, the foundation of reality. Everything in this universe is energy. The chair you sit on, the air you breathe, the thoughts that rise and fall inside your mind, all of it is made up of energy, moving and vibrating at different speeds. Most of the time, we don't notice this. We experience life through sights and sounds, through touch and taste, and it feels solid, permanent, fixed. But beneath what our senses can perceive, there is a deeper truth. Life is vibration. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel sends out a signal. It's like a pebble dropped into a still pond. The ripples move outward, touching everything around them, even if you can't see how far they go. In this way, your inner state isn't just private, it's constantly shaping the world you experience. When I first heard this idea, I wasn't sure I believed it. It felt too simple, too abstract. But over time, through reflection and painful lessons, I began to see its truth in my own life. When I carried fear, my world seemed filled with things to fear. I saw threats everywhere. Even in harmless situations, I interpreted people's words through a lens of suspicion, expecting betrayal or disappointment. It was like wearing glasses that only showed me danger and lack. But when I cultivated trust, even just a little, something shifted. I began to notice small acts of kindness I had overlooked before: a stranger holding a door, a friend checking in at the exact right moment. It wasn't that the world suddenly became better, it was that my frequency changed, and my experience changed with it. Your thoughts and emotions are like a tuning fork. If you are vibrating with anxiety, you will naturally resonate with more experiences that match that vibration. If you are vibrating with love, you will begin to see love reflected back to you in ways that may seem miraculous. During most days, these frequencies play out quietly, subtly, but there are certain times when the energy of the universe amplifies them. Times when the volume of your vibration is turned up. September 7th, 8th, and 9th are such days. Think of it like speaking into a microphone. On an ordinary day, your voice may reach only the people close to you. But on these amplified days, the microphone is turned on, and your words echo across a vast space. Whatever frequency you're carrying inside will be broadcast loudly, sent out into the field of possibilities. This is why these 3 days are so important. If you are unconsciously feeding fear, doubt, or anger, those emotions can grow quickly, shaping a timeline you don't want to live in. But if you nurture love, gratitude, and peace, those energies will expand just as powerfully, opening doors you never knew were there. It's not about pretending everything is perfect or forcing yourself to feel positive all the time. It's about becoming aware of what you are broadcasting. When fear arises, notice it, breathe with it, acknowledge its presence without letting it take over. Like a storm cloud passing across the sky, fear doesn't have to define you unless you cling to it. Then, gently choose what you wish to cultivate instead. Maybe it's a quiet moment of gratitude for the breath in your lungs, for the sunlight on your skin, for the fact that you are still here, still able to grow. Maybe it's a simple act of kindness toward yourself or someone else. These small choices may seem insignificant, but remember, energy expands whatever you focus on. In my own life, I've seen how a single shift in frequency can create ripples of transformation. There were days when I felt trapped in despair, certain nothing would ever change. And then, through a single practice, a meditation, a prayer, a deep, intentional breath, I tapped into a vibration of calm. That calm didn't erase my challenges, but it changed how I met them. And over time, my outer circumstances began to reflect that inner steadiness. These 3 days are an invitation to be deliberate about the energy you carry. Before you speak, before you act, pause and ask yourself, what frequency am I transmitting right now? Is this the energy I want to build my future with? If the answer is no, take a moment to recalibrate. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly, deeply. Imagine your inner state softening, aligning with the qualities you wish to experience: love, trust, clarity, peace. The outer world may still be unpredictable, but when your vibration is steady, you become a beacon. You begin to attract experiences and people who match that steadiness, and slowly, a new timeline unfolds, one built not from fear, but from conscious creation. On September 7th, 8th, and 9th, your inner frequency will act like a magnet. What you send out will return to you more powerfully than usual. Choose wisely, not by forcing yourself into perfection, but by lovingly guiding your attention back to what matters most. Because in the end, reality is not something that just happens to you. It is something you co-create, one vibration at a time. And when you align your frequency with the highest truth of who you are, the universe cannot help but reflect that beauty back to you. Walking through the gateway. These 3 days are not just numbers on a calendar. They are a living, breathing moment of convergence, a gateway to transformation, a mirror held up by the universe itself, so that you can see yourself with unflinching clarity. You can move through them as if they were ordinary, like someone half asleep, letting the world decide your fate. Or you can step into them with open eyes and an open heart, as someone awake, someone who listens deeply, chooses deliberately, and claims ownership of their inner world. I've lived both ways. I know what it's like to drift through life without awareness, pulled in every direction by fear and habit. Back then, I blamed circumstances for everything. I thought my happiness depended on what others did or didn't do, on whether life gave me what I thought I needed. But that way of living left me hollow and powerless, always waiting for something outside of me to change. And I know the other way too, the way of presence, the way of inner mastery. I felt the quiet strength that comes when you stop looking outward for salvation and begin tending to the sanctuary within. It's not that life becomes perfect or painless. It's that you become steady. No matter what, storms rage outside. The real miracle isn't some dramatic event falling from the sky. It isn't about the world suddenly rearranging itself to suit your desires. The real miracle is subtler, quieter. It's your own choice. Every moment, you are choosing how to see, how to respond, how to interpret the events around you. Those choices ripple outward, shaping not just what happens next, but the very reality you live in. During these 3 days, September 7th, 8th, and 9th, the energy will amplify your inner state. Your thoughts, emotions, and vibrations will echo louder than usual. It's like speaking into a microphone. Whatever you project will be broadcast into the universe and returned to you with greater intensity. So, pause. Notice what you are sending out. If you're radiating fear, it will multiply. If you're radiating love, courage, and clarity, they too will expand and come back to you tenfold. Don't go searching for miracles in the outside world. Look inward, because the miracle has always been there, in your awareness, in your presence, in your willingness to align with the highest version of yourself. When you master your inner world, the outer world shifts naturally. You no longer chase after outcomes, because you begin to see that everything is responding to the frequency you carry. The people you meet, the opportunities that arise, even the challenges you face, they all begin to mirror the peace and strength you have cultivated within. These 3 days are a gift, but like all gifts, what you receive depends on how you open it. You can rush past it, never noticing its significance, or you can step into it with reverence, curiosity, and courage. So as this sacred window approaches, live with awareness, decide with bravery, act with trust. Even when the path ahead feels uncertain, breathe deeply and remind yourself that you are not here by accident. This moment, these days, are part of a larger story, one that has been unfolding since before you were even aware of it. When you walk through this gateway, consciously, these 3 days won't just come and go like any other. They will mark a turning point, a before and after in the timeline of your life. And one day, when you look back, you will see clearly. It wasn't the world that changed first. It was you. You became the calm in the storm. You became the light in the darkness. You became the miracle you had been waiting for. And from that moment forward, nothing was ever the same again.